Hey, gang, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that the Reaper waits for no man, and I got a good reminder of that recently. I've been dealing with hearing loss now for, 10-ish years. I got tinnitus, where you could hear a ringing in my ear. I can still hear it. It's like a minor third between the two ears, which is kind of weird. But I was kind of at peace with it. I could deal with it. The problem was some of my family members, particularly the females, one of my daughters in particular, her voice is right in that range of that noise that I get, so it's really hard for me to understand her. And I was just kind of gradually dealing with it over time, but I was also more often just kind of checking out of conversations because I didn't know what they were saying. And I found myself nodding a lot and just agreeing with whatever people were saying to me because I just didn't know what they were saying. I try to read lips, but like I said, it was just something that was very gradual. That's, I think, the thing about something like hearing loss. But something happened to me about 2 or 3 months ago. And this had frankly happened before, but it started with regularity, where I'd be like out in a public store and they'd have the music playing over the loudspeakers. And it would sound to me almost like a Twilight Zone episode where the music didn't slow down, but the pitch would change. As a musician, it would really bug me. Like, here'd be a song I'd hear that I've heard my whole life, and it sounded like the musicians were like turning the dial on the pitch, like from F major to D major. It's like the whole thing was like skewing in my ears. And when I would hear it, I'd ask the clerk, I'm like, hey, do you hear that? Can you tell what's wrong with your speakers? And they'd look at me like I'm an old crazy man. And it happened repeatedly. And so then, Apple updated the AirPods Pro for hearing aids. So I trained them with the Apple software. I was going to make a labs video on it. And I went in a store and I heard the noise again. And then I put them in and then it sounded okay. And I was thinking, oh boy, this is the call to action here. So I made an appointment with the doctor, the audiologist at my insurance. I went in and sure enough, my hearing loss has got quite a bit worse over the last few years. My loss is mainly in the mids and highs, which is right where those female voices are. I can't hear anymore. And they're like, dude, you need hearing aids. I'm like, I don't think it's that bad. And they're like, no, you need them. And then when I told the doctor about the thing with the music, she said, yeah, that happens a lot to musicians. They notice that. And it was really disturbing to me. But anyway, so I took her advice. I set up an appointment. Fortunately, my insurance has a deal where you go to a special vendor and they just give you hearing aids. But it was funny because they handed me a little piece of paper to say, well, have your wife fill this out before you go. And it was like a questionnaire for the spouse. And one of the questions was, does he ever ask you to repeat? And she says, no, he just pretends that he heard me. She knew, she was on to me the whole time. So that was kind of funny. But the long and the short of it is the AirPods are great. They were good for a diagnostic device, but I can't walk around with AirPods Pro in my ear all the times. You may have noticed because I forget they're in now. I've had them a month, but I'm wearing hearing aids, and wow, when I just took it out, things got muddy on that side. But they fit behind your ear. It's just a little pipe that goes down, sticks a little transmitter in here. And the technology is really quite interesting. It's not like the days of my dad. My dad had hearing aids too. Korean war vets. He heard a lot of hand grenades going off. He used to go to church and turn them off. It was kind of funny. But either way, these are much better. They plug them into the computer, the technician, when you get them, and then they match it to your profile. So what these are doing is only giving me the frequencies that I don't already hear. And it was shocking when I put them on. It was like the first time you put glasses on, when you need glasses and you see the leaves on the trees and everything. It was like that. Like my daughter's voice sounds different to me. It sounds better. And a lot of things like that sound interesting. Music sounds interesting to me. It's just very kind of fascinating. And I've been wearing them all day for a while. In fact, I asked the doctor, do I need to wear them all day? Because I'm home alone working most days. The family's off to their various jobs. I work from home. I don't have coworkers. And the doctor said, you absolutely should wear them all day. Because one of the things I didn't realize is that there's a huge connection between hearing loss and Alzheimer's and dementia. Because if your brain doesn't hear the words, it just starts turning those circuits off in your brain. And like you get worse at communicating. And I had no idea that was the case. But honestly, I was turning my brain off to a lot of conversations, with people. So I think it's a good thing that I wear these things. And if you have any sort of hearing loss, this is my video to you to go get it checked out. I was lucky enough to be able to get these nice ones because of the insurance, but you can get them at Costco, fairly reasonable if you need them. Interestingly, these things are Bluetooth, so they connect to my phone and I can hear podcasts and music through them. Music sounds pretty bad through them. Honestly, they're not really made like AirPods. They don't connect as easily as AirPods. Sometimes they connect to the phone when they're in the charger. So Apple should make a set of real hearing aids would be my advice. But so in a lot of ways, they're worse than AirPods, but they've drastically improved my hearing. So this is something you may want to check out. I just wanted to share it with you. Sometimes you'll see videos and I forget to take them out and you'll see these little tubes going to my ears. That's what it is. It's nothing too exciting. I do take them off when I podcast because I have big over-ear headphones and I think amplifying that probably is not a good idea. I also notice like when I put glasses on, sometimes they scratch against it or a hat because the way these work, there's a microphone in the bit that goes over your ear. And then it's just, driving the thing down your ear. You just stick it over your ear and just kind of jam it in there and off to the races you go. But this has been an interesting month for me, recovering a bunch of hearing. There's a program that these have that's supposed to reduce tinnitus. So I've been running it routinely. I don't really see that it has reduced it much. I can't really tell, but it has made hearing a lot easier. And I just thought I'd share that with you in the labs. If you have hearing issues or you're dealing with tinnitus, you may want to get this checked out. So getting into the management of hearing aids with an iPhone is pretty easy. It's an accessibility feature. So I'll triple tap on the side button. And you can see I've got a couple accessibility features enabled, but the hearing devices is the one we want. And it brings me right there to David's hearing aids. If I click on that, I have the ability to adjust the volume up and down. There are different programs for it. I'm running the universal one. That's one I usually run. I talked about that tinnitus signal. When I turn that on, it doesn't sound any different to me, but I'm told it helps somehow. I'm not sure what it does. There's also one that's kind of useful if we're at Disneyland and it's really noisy. I'll go to the noisy environments. But I find the universal one is the one that works most times. While you're here, there's some other settings. I can change the mic input. I can go to the device settings so I can have it play ringtones, audio routing. Apple actually gives you a lot of control over the way this works. And the way I have it set is it basically sends calls and media to my hearing aids. It's great for phone calls so long as the phone is close. The Bluetooth signal is not very strong. So if this thing gets more than 3 or 4 feet away from me, it starts breaking up, which is another example of it not being as good as an AirPod. But it has everything I need to run it right here. Now, there's also an app for this, but I don't use it because I find that these accessibility settings are all I need. So there's my story in a nutshell. It was not very dramatic. I went to the doctor in the morning, the technician in the afternoon, and I had the hearing aids that evening. I do think it's a nice improvement for me. They're not perfect, though. I mean, things sound a little artificial through them, but I can at least hear them. It would be better to have perfect hearing and not need them, but if you need them, you should go get them.